Now I know this is going to be somewhat controversial, so just take it easy on me here, but I am going to be using my stock timing cover with this hydraulic roller cam. Hey guys, what's going on? So I'm back in the shop today. I'm finishing up the retrofit hydraulic roller cam setup and install on the big block Chevy. Last time around, I got the cam all degreed, so that's all done and out of the way now, but I still need to check and set the cam in place. So that's what's going to be happening next. Okay, so I've got the cam all degreed now. If you're interested in seeing how that went down, be sure to check out the video. I ended up having to retard the cam just a little bit to make it match the manufacturer's specifications. So at any rate, I'm ready to button this thing up so that we can check and set the cam in play, but I just wanted to kind of show you the components here. So I've got the cam buttons already in place. It's being held there by a cam plate. Be sure you're using one of these cam plates with these hydraulic rollers, especially the retrofits, since there's not a provision here for the retaining plate. So anyway, I've got the cam plates in place. I've got the cam button here. This is actually a steel cam button that has a needle bearing set in it. It's from Straub Technologies. I'll put a link in the description. And then the timing set itself is a Rollmaster. It's a really nice set here. Rollmaster timing set. Again, I'll put a link in the description for that. It has the Torrington bearing on the back side. Anyway, it's a really nice timing set. It's a 9-way timing set. Okay guys, so I know that this is going to be somewhat controversial, so just take it easy on me here. My plan is to go ahead and use my stock timing cover with this retrofit hydraulic roller. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. You've got a group that says that you can't use these stock covers because they flex too much. You've got others that say they're okay to use. They use them on a lot of these judged cars that have to be 100% stock and original looking. So right now my plan is, again, I'm going to go ahead and use this stock cover because I do want to keep it as factory looking as possible. A lot of you will probably in this case go with an aftermarket timing cover, maybe a two-piece, but certainly an aftermarket cover that's just a little bit more stout, and a lot of them have basically a set screw here in the very center of the timing cover so that you can set that cam in place. So anyway, this is what we're going to do. Like I said, I want to try to use this stock cover. Stay tuned. I'm going to try a couple of different things here. If we have any flex, I'm going to go ahead and install this cover in place. I'm going to torque it down to the correct torque on all the bolts, and then we're going to go ahead and check the end play. What we'll also do is we'll just kind of keep an eye on what the end play is or how close it is, and then if there is any additional flex. There's also a camp of guys that say that you likely aren't going to have any outward movement of the cam to where you would really get enough pressure on this stock cover to cause any problems. But then the other half of the camp says that they've ran motors and had lots of timing issues over the years. So anyway, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to definitely be really careful about any additional play or flex that I have in this cover. I've got a couple of ideas in mind that I've seen some other guys do, basically putting a washer inside of here to reinforce it, and then also basically putting a spacer behind the water pump that will come in and basically close the gap between the water pump and the timing cover and keep this front of this cover from flexing. So anyway, I'm going to get this cover put on, then we're going to come back and we're going to check the end play. We'll be right back. So just a quick comment here. I know you've probably noticed that I haven't bent these ears over on the cam locking plate yet, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is that I don't want to bend those over or use any Loctite on the bolts until I'm done with both degreeing the cam and setting the cam in play here. So, you know, if you watch the video where you saw me do the cam degreeing, you know that I had to take this all apart to retard the cam. So I wanted to make sure that these ears weren't bent over and I didn't have Loctite on the bolts. The same goes with setting the end play or the cam end plate as well. If for some reason I need to take this cam button out, you see how it's locked in there by the cam locking plate, it won't come out. I want to be sure that I can get this all apart nice and easy, so I don't want to, again, I don't want to put Loctite on the bolts or fold those ears over yet until the cam is degreed properly and the end play is set properly. Once I'm done with both of those two processes, I'll go ahead and get these tabs or ears bent over. We'll put Loctite on the bolts, we'll torque them down to the correct spec, and then we will put the timing cover back on and we should be all set. Okay, so I've got the timing cover all reinstalled here now, so we should be good to go. I think we can get started on checking this in play. So first things first, we've got to get the dial indicator set up so that we can measure that in play or check that in play of the cam. I typically will do it back here at the back of the block. I will leave this plug out when I put this all back together. It's just a really nice place to access the cam. So I think, like, I kind of feel like this is the easiest and best place to do this. Another place that I've seen guys set the dial indicator up is right here in this oil galley, this hole here, and then they just get the dial indicator set up so that it hits the back of the cam gear itself. But I personally like to do it back here, so I always leave that rear plug out so that I have access here. Once I have my dial indicator all set up where I like it, whether it's back here on the rear cam plug or up here in this oil galley area, is we need to now set this dial indicator to 0 by moving the camshaft towards the rear of the block. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver. I've got some duct tape wrapped around it just to keep it from gouging or scratching the lobe itself. And then I'm just going to find a lobe down in here through one of the lifter valleys that I can actually get the screwdriver in and then just gently pry the cam to the rear of the block. Once I do that, then I can come back here and reset this dial indicator to 0. That'll be our reference point, and then what we can do is pry the cam towards the front of the block and we will measure what that in play is. Now, what they say is about 4 to 10 thousandths of in play is acceptable. So we'll check it here. I'm hoping that I'll be kind of in the middle there, you know, maybe 6 or 7 thousandths of in play. So I'm just going to get started here. I've already rotated the crank so that I have the cam in a spot where I can get to one of the lobes fairly easily. So I'm just going to come in here just like so, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pry or move the camshaft to the rear of the block. I'm going to check here down here, and once I've gotten it as far as it'll move back without excessively forcing it, I'm going to set that to 0, and again, that will be our baseline and our point of reference for checking the end play. So I'm just going to come up here and just very slightly, it's not going to take much at all, and that cam is going to move towards the rear. The needle is moving. That's about as far as it'll go without, like I said, forcefully making it move. And now what I'm going to do is set the dial indicator to 0, and we're going to then check the forward movement of the cam, and that'll tell us what the cam in play is right now before any adjustments. All right, so now that we've got the cam pushed to the back of the block, we've got the dial indicator set to 0, we can now go ahead and move the cam to the front towards the timing cover and see what the cam in play is. So I'm just going to get in here with my screwdriver. Again, I've just got a screwdriver here with some duct tape wrapped around it to soften up the edges, and I've got the crank turned over and the cam turned so that I can get to a lobe easily from this side of the block. So I'm just going to stick it in there, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to pry it forward towards the front of the block. And again, I'm just looking to bump that front of that cam up against the timing cover. We're going to check the the end play on the gauge or the dial indicator at the back of the block, and we're going to see where we are. The other thing that I want to be aware of is, since I am using the stock timing cover here, I want to make sure that I'm truly measuring the end play and I'm not measuring the flex. So again, I'm just going to go gently bump it up against the timing cover here, and let's see what it looks like. That looks about it right there. I'm looking at the dial indicator right now, and it looks like 1/1000th, maybe pushing 2/1000ths of an inch is what I've got in terms of just gently pushing that cam up against the timing cover. So now I'm gonna basically call it 1/1000ths, maybe 2/1000ths here on end play. So I'm gonna need to increase that end play. But now I'm curious just if I can move this a little bit further by forcing it a little bit more to see if the timing cover itself starts to flex. So I'm just gonna move it a little bit, and there we go. It is flexing a little bit, but not much. Just a couple of thousandths there. I can actually see the cover wanting to move just a little bit, but not much. So I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I do want to increase a little bit of that natural end play without taking into consideration this flex that is happening. Yeah, see, when I start doing there, I can get it to flex even more, or a little bit more. So I think the next thing that I want to do here is I'm just going to make some adjustments to increase that cam end play, either by dolling a little bit. I can probably put this in my press and move this timing cover out just a little bit, or I can take a little bit off of the cam button. So let me play around with that just a little bit, and we'll come back and see if we can gain some improvements. When I checked the end play, I was just a little bit tight here on the front of the cam. So what I did is I actually came in and machined very carefully about 5/1000ths off of the front of this cam button. Now, you could use a nylon button to make life a lot easier, just to use a nylon button. I've got a steel button here, so I have to just be very careful when I machine it. And anyway, I took about 5/1000ths off the nose of this cam button here, hoping that 5/1000ths plus the 1 or 2/1000ths end play that I did have ends up putting me kind of in that sweet spot for what I'm looking for. The other thing that we'll do, as you saw when I checked the end play the first time around, is we'll also have to keep an eye on the flexing of that stock cover. So anyway, we'll get it all put back together, and let's check the end play again. Well, I've got everything back together here. Time cover's back on. This is actually the third time, I think it's the third time. Yeah, the third time that I've put this timing cover back on, because I've actually had to check the cam end play a couple of times. So the first time, as you saw, we were a little too tight on the end play. So I took 5/1000ths off of the cam button, put everything back together, checked it again, still just a little too tight. So everything back off, cam button out, took some more off of the cam button, and as luck would have it, or at least my luck would have it, I took too much off. And so the next time that I checked it, I had too much end play. So what I did, rather than use a shim, which could be done if you have shims laying around, you can use a shim back behind the cam button to take that slack out. But what I did is I just took the timing cover over to the press and pressed the very center of this timing cover. It's about this wide here, it's about this wide. And I've got a socket over there that I can use, and I basically press the entire timing cover in just a little bit. So I think that's going to take the slack out. That's where we are right now. So we're going to go back up on top here. We're going to check the end play now and see what it looks like. Okay guys, so let's just go ahead and check the cam end play one more time. Hopefully this will be the last time that I have to do this. So since I've had the cover on and off a few times and been playing around with it here, I'm just going to make sure that I've got the cam all the way to the back of the block. I'll check it just to make sure that we're still zeroed out. If not, I'll make that adjustment at the dial indicator. And then what we'll do is we'll just do the same thing we did last time, is we'll just bring the cam forward until it butts up against the timing cover, and we'll check the end play. So we're just gonna move it back to the back here. There we go, that's right to the back, and it looks like it's still on the 0. Yeah, that looks good. So we're just going to change now, and we're going to go on the other side of the lobe, and we're just going to bring it right to the front of the block so that the cam just bumps up against the inside of the timing cover. and we're not going to force it any further than that. So it looks like after I do that, I had just a little bit of flex, but after I do that, it looks like I'm right around 7 thousandths. Here, let me just make sure that I've got it where it needs to be. That looks pretty good right there. Looks like around 8 thousandths maybe. Yep, 8 thousandths. It's wanting to relax there. So 8 thousandths in play. That's right in the sweet spot for what I am shooting for. Again, I'm shooting for anywhere between 4 to 10 thousandths on that in play. So now, out of just curiosity, I'm going to see if I can get that timing cover to flex now by putting just a little bit more pressure on it. So if I just put a little bit more on it, yep, it looks like it's flexing maybe 3 thousandths, 4 thousandths, 5 thousandths. So it is flexing just a little bit. So I've got the cam in place set where I want it. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to hopefully address the flexing of the timing cover. So hang tight, we're gonna come back. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do here to hopefully mitigate that risk. I don't think I'll ever eliminate it 100%, but I'm hoping to keep it from flexing as much as possible. Just strategizing here just a little bit, trying to figure out a way to reduce the amount of flex here on this timing cover, this stock timing cover with that hydraulic roller cam. Again, I don't know that it's a big deal. I don't know that it should be a problem or not. You know, as I mentioned earlier, there are some guys that say don't use a stock timing cover with a hydraulic roller. Others say it's okay. So, you know, I'm going to do my best here to try to eliminate that flex here, or at least reduce it. You know, the ideal thing to do here, as you all know, is just to use an aftermarket timing cover that's designed for hydraulic roller cam. But again, trying to keep that stock appearance here. So a couple of things that I've heard or read about trying. The first is basically just putting a washer, welding a washer on the inside of the timing cover or on the outside of the timing cover. And I'll have some B-roll here to show you. I actually tried that. I tried to put a washer on the inside of the timing cover, and it seemed like it was going to work. It definitely made the timing cover a little bit more rigid, and there was less flex, but it didn't eliminate it. And I think that's because the washer sits right in this very center piece, and the cover wants to actually start flexing from out in this area. So I think if a person were to go on the inside or maybe even on the outside of the cover and put some reinforcement kind of in this cross pattern here, that might actually help keep that timing cover from flexing. But again, I put a washer in there, I welded it in there nice and solid, and it still wanted to flex just a little bit. I think the next thing that I'm going to try here, and this is what I've read most about, is putting a spacer between the water pump and the timing cover. So a set screw, a spacer, a bracket, whatever might work. So what I'm going to do here, if I can move the camera over here, is I'm going to basically put a coupling nut here between the water pump back and the timing cover. So I'm going to take this washer here and I'm going to weld these two pieces together. So I basically have a piece that's not going to press up against the center of that timing cover, and I'm going to weld it to the back of this water pump cover. And I'll probably make a little bit of bracket. I've got some tubular steel here that I'll cut and modify to make a little bit of a bracket. I've already done some checking, and so if we look here at this water pump cover, you can see I have a little piece of clay here, and that's exactly where this is going to sit or butt up against, and that lines up with the very center of the timing cover, this area right here. So I've got that all aligned. Now it's just a matter of making a little bracket so that we can put that piece back behind there. I'll be sure to use my gaskets with the water pump, and I'll torque it down and make sure that I'm as accurate as I can be. Again, I'm probably not going to eliminate all of the flex. I just want to mitigate it, reduce it as much as possible. Here it is, just that little bracket that I'd made. I've already got my weld-through primer here on the back side of the bracket, but it's just basically two different parts. I've taken that coupling nut and welded it to the washer, this flat washer. So I've welded that coupling nut to that. Took a little bit of threaded rod, welded it to the bracket that I had made. And so, like I said, just 2 pieces here. You just have to kind of trial and error, keep going up inside of here and checking the fitment, making sure that you have enough room to, 1, get it in there, and then 2, you want to make sure that you can tighten this little washer up against the timing cover. So that's what it looks like once it's all said and done. This face here where my finger is, that'll weld up against the back of the water pump, so the water pump cover. And then this part here will be up against the timing cover, and I'll be able to tighten it to take that flex out, and then we'll have to just make sure that we find a way to lock this in place so that it doesn't work its way loose over time. So anyway, pretty simple to do. Yet to see whether or not it works. It sounds like a good idea in theory, but what I'll do now is I'll slide it up inside of the, up between the water pump and the timing cover. We'll see how it fits. We'll get it all marked up, weld it in place, and put it all back together. All right, guys, so I've got the little washer spacer just wedged in place here between the timing cover and the back of the water pump, so you can just see there that I've got that in place and centered. And then if I come up on the top here, you can see the little bracket that I made, this bracket here, that will be spot welded to the back of the water pump cover. Again, here's the coupling nut that I welded to the washer just to kind of give me this flat surface to press up against that timing cover. And what I'll be able to do is turn that coupling nut and just tighten it to take any flex out of the timing cover. So I'll have to come back up and check the cam in play. I'll have to come back up in here, check that in play, set it again, or at least check it. It's already set with the cam button, but just make sure that I'm not getting any flex. So all I'm doing right now is I'm just marking it right here with a pencil. I need to take it all apart again, and then I will spot weld it to the back of the water pump cover. Put a little bit of weld through primer in between each of those mating surfaces. So I think this might do the trick. I won't know until I get it all welded in and get the water pump back on, and we'll check it from there. I'm not real sure yet if this is going to back off. It's so tight in here, I don't have enough room to put a stop nut on there. So I think what I'll do is I'll use some of the Loctite to keep it in place, keep it from working back, or I'll get in there and just put a little tack weld in there. But anyway, I'm hoping that this is going to work, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. So we're going to take it apart here and get it all welded together. I'm going to paint this, obviously I'm going to paint this all Chevy orange as well. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to get it taken apart, put it back together, and we're going to see if this is actually going to work. Well, I've got it all put back together here now, and all painted, and you can see right through here, I think you can see that come through on the camera, the washer here that's going to basically cinch up against the timing cover. And what we'll do now is just come up on the top side here, and we can adjust this nut here, or tighten this nut with this box wrench here. And I'm just going to get it snugged up. You can see down in there, I think you can see down in there where the bracket is and the set screw with the washer on it. So we're just going to get that snugged up against the timing cover, and then we're going to check that in play again. So last time we checked it, we had about 7 thousandths, 8 thousandths of in play, plus a little bit of flex from the timing cover itself. So hopefully we're going to get rid of that flex as best as possible. My guess is, because I'm going to have to cinch this washer down just a little bit, we're going to probably lose some of that original in play. But again, we're shooting for 3 to 10 thousandths of in play. So as long as we fall in there, we should be in good shape. So let's go ahead and check that in play now, make some final adjustments, and we should be done. Back up top here now, so we're just going to check the in play, hopefully for the last time. I've got the little set screw with the washer in between the pump and the timing cover. It's all snugged down now. hopefully I haven't snugged it down so tight that I've taken end play out of it. So first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to go back in with the screwdriver again with the duct tape. We're going to find a cam lobe, and we're going to move that cam towards the rear of the block, and we are going to just double check that the dial indicator is at 0. If not, we are just going to reset it. So we're back here. There we go. We are now at 0 on the dial indicator, so we've got the cam to the back of the motor. Now let's come in here and let's move the cam the other direction, and we just want to get it to butt up against the timing cover. We don't want to force it, just in case we do get a little bit of flex. So let's go ahead and bump it forward. There we go. Looks like we're at about 5 thousandths. About 5 thousandths there on the end play. So we lost a couple of thousandths just by tightening that set screw down. Now let me see if we've got much flex at all. So I'm just going to push forward a little bit more. Looks like there's just a hair bit of flex still in there, but it looks like it's only about 1 thousandths. I can't get it to move much more than that. So I think we've got this flexing timing cover sorted out here just by using that little set screw washer between the pump and the timing cover. So I think we're in good shape. So we're going to let it go there. We're going to call it good. Looks like we're going to end up at about 5 thousandths of cam in play on this hydraulic roller, and that should do it. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Again, a lot of this dilemma here was because I wanted to use that stock timing cover to keep the factory look. I could have easily just gone with a timing cover that's designed, an aftermarket aluminum or billet timing cover that's designed for hydraulic roller cams, but I wanted to keep that stock timing cover in there. So hopefully we're going to be okay. Again, it may just have been a little bit of overkill. Maybe I would have been okay just without the spacer, but that's better than nothing, and that should be good to go. So anyway, thanks for tuning in.